All right, so today we're going to talk about multiplying complex numbers. So we have added and subtracted, and now we're going to do multiply. So it's a little bit different when you're doing the multiplying. We're going to use the double distribution method, and then we're going to combine our like terms, and then we'll have our answer, okay? So when multiplying complex numbers, we use the distributive property and simplify. We're going to be doing the double distributive property because we're going to have two terms to distribute instead of one, okay? And in adding and subtracting, remember you couldn't add an imaginary number with a real number. Well, in multiplying, you can multiply an imaginary number and a real number together, okay? It's just like when you had variables, and when you multiplied, you could multiply the variables, but you couldn't add different variables, okay? So here we would double distribute, and how we got that 15 is we said 3 times 5. That gave us the 15. Then we said 3 times positive 7i, and we got the 21i, because 3 times 7 is 21, and then you just bring your I down, okay? Then, so that's one distributive property. Now we got to do the double, so we're going to do it again, and we're going to distribute the negative 8i. So negative 8 times 5 gives you the negative 40, and then you bring the I down. Now this one is where you got the two imaginary numbers coming together, okay? So here we're going to say negative 8i times positive 7i. Well, negative 8 times 7 gives you the negative 56, and then we're x times x equals x squared. Same thing here. I times I gives us that I squared. Now, I squared is actually a number, okay? You need to remember this. So remember that when you took the square root, you pulled out the I. So if you squared the I, it put the negative back. So here, I squared is actually negative 1. And your calculator will actually calculate that, your handheld calculator. So anytime you see I squared, you must replace it with negative 1. And so when I replace it, let's come over here to a side note. So I'm going to say negative 56, replace I squared with negative 1. Negative 56 times negative 1 gives you that positive 56. Okay? And then after that, we're going to clean up some like terms. We're going to say 15 plus 56. And we get the 71, and then you just drop down your negative 19i. And that's your answer. Okay? All right, so it's a few more steps than the other one. It's you're kind of adding extra steps from the adding and subtracting one. Okay? All right, so here's a guided example if you want to look at it. See how they replaced the I squared with that negative 1? Okay? So if you need to, pause this screen and you can look at these detailed steps, and that might help you out too. I've added another guided one in here because in this one, if you notice, your middle terms cancel out here because a positive 10i and a negative 10i, they cancel each other out. Okay, so sometimes that can happen, just like when you were just like when you did the double distribution of x minus 2 times x plus 2. Okay, they ended up canceling out there. All right, it's the same concept, except instead of having x's, you have an I, and you have to remember that I squared is negative 1. All right, so let's do an example. So we're going to start simple, and we're going to do just a simple distribution, not a double, just a single one, okay? So first thing you need to do is distribute. So we're going to take this negative 3i and we're going to distribute it. Negative 3 times 6 is negative 18, and then it has the I, okay? Then we're going to distribute again. Negative 3i times negative 8i. Well, negative 3 times negative 8 is a positive 24, and then I times I is I squared. Now remember, I squared equals negative 1, so we're going to replace I squared with negative 1, and we're going to have negative 18i plus 24 times negative 1. Well, 24 times negative 1 is negative 24. Can I combine those two terms? No, they're not identical. So that is your final answer. Okay? All right, next problem. So here again, a single distribution problem. So we're going to take the 3 and distribute it. 3 times 4 is going to give us a 12. There was no I, so we don't need one. Then I'm going to say 3 times negative 9 and get negative 27. Again, there's only one I, so I'm just going to drop it down. I can't combine those two terms. There's no I squared to turn into negative 1. So that is your final answer. Okay? All right, let's get down to the double distribution problems. So you're going to distribute once, then twice, change I squared to negative 1, clean stuff up, and get your final answer. Okay? So negative 8 times negative 3 is going to be a positive 24. Okay? Then we're going to take that negative 8 and distribute it again. Negative 8 times a positive 6 is going to give us a negative 48i, because 6 had the I. All right, so we distributed once. Let's distribute again. Negative 9 times negative 3 is going to give us a positive 27i, because 9 had the I. And then we're going to say negative 9 times 6 is a negative 54, and then I times I is an I squared. We need to replace that I squared with a negative 1. So now we're going to have 24 minus 48i plus 27i minus 54 times negative 1. All right, we can clean this up. Negative 54 times negative 1 will make it positive. So we've got 24 minus 48i plus 27i plus 54. Now let's clean those like terms up. 24 and 54 are a like term. So that's going to give me 78. Then negative 48i and 27i is a like term. So negative 48 plus 27 gives me negative 21i. And that's your answer. Okay? So it's just all about taking your time, okay? So you don't make a mistake on these, all right? Number 4, let's do another one. Double distribution, okay? So we're going to take that first term and we're going to distribute it. So we're going to say 6 times 6, which is 36. Then I'm going to say 6 times negative 5i, which is negative 30i. So that's one distribution. Let me rewrite that 0. There we go. Then I'm going to distribute again. 5i times 6i is a positive 30i. Then I'm going to say 5i times negative 5i, and that's going to be a negative 25i squared. Now remember, the I squared is a negative 1, so now we have 36 minus 30i plus 30i. Now 25, this is going to be negative 25 times negative 1, and it's going to give us a positive 25. After you do that, we clean up. Let's combine those like terms. 36 and 25 is going to be 61. Now, look here. If you look here, I've got a negative 30i and a positive 30i. Anytime you have opposites of each other, they cancel each other out. So these two terms cancel, and your final answer is just 61. Okay? All right, next one. How about you pause this screen and try this one on your own? Okay? All right, so I hope you paused this video, and now let's see if you got it right. So negative 5 times negative 4 is going to be negative 20. Negative 5 times I is just negative 5i. Let's distribute again. Negative 4i times 4 is negative 16i. And then negative 4i times I is going to be negative 4i squared. Now I squared is negative 1, so this is really negative 4 times negative 1, which is a positive 4. So now I have negative 20 minus 5i minus 16i plus 4. Combine your like terms. Negative 20 and 4 is going to be negative 16. Negative 5i and negative 16i is going to be negative 21i. And that's your final answer. I hope you got it right. And if you didn't get it right, I hope you see where you went wrong, okay? So you can correct it for the next time. All right. And that is it for these examples. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks, guys.